Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Munib Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. India has reported a record single-day COVID-19 cases for the 9th consecutive day as nearly 261,000 people tested positive overnight. In Pakistan, authorities announced that classes from grades 1 to 8 will remain suspended till May the 16th as the third wave continues to batter the country. They said classes from grades 9 to 12 will resume on a stage-wise basis in affected districts starting from Monday. Globally, the virus has claimed over 3 million lives and has infected more than 140 million people. Pakistan has reiterated its support for reconciliation in Afghanistan and progress in the peace process. In a phone call, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi discussed developments in the peace process with his Afghan counterpart Hanif Atmar. Qureshi also invited Atmar to Pakistan to discuss a way forward after the upcoming Istanbul conference. The Russian Foreign Ministry has vowed tough retaliatory measures against the Czech Republic over the decision to expel 18 Russian diplomats. Diplomats have been given 48 hours to leave over the suspected involvement of Russia in a 2014 ammunition depot blast that killed 2 people. Russia has described the accusations as absurd. Myanmar's shadow government has urged Asean to give it a seat at the table during crisis talks next week and not to recognize the military regime. The plea comes a day after Thailand invited Myanmar's military ruler to attend talks in Jakarta. Myanmar continues to reel from violence since the military seized power in February. And in football, Barcelona have thrashed Athletic Bilbao 4-0 in the Spanish Copa del Rey final to lift the trophy. Lionel Messi scored a brace to hand Barca the title for a record 31st time. The win also gives Ronald Koeman his first piece of silverware as Barca's coach. Well, these were the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. We'll start from India, which has reported record single-day COVID-19 cases for the straight 9th day as nearly 261,000 people tested positive overnight. The coronavirus has claimed over 3 million lives worldwide, while infecting nearly 140.5 million. More about the pandemic in this report.
People around the world are getting tired of lockdowns and restrictions, even with record cases and vaccine shortages. Criticism has mounted over the Indian government's handling of the health crisis as religious festivals and election rallies continue despite healthcare systems being overwhelmed. India's capital, New Delhi, which is among the worst-hit cities, is facing an acute shortage of hospital beds. But the situation looks very promising down in Australia. After months, Australians have been allowed to dine out, while stopped wearing face masks in most places. However, Prime Minister Scott Morrison says Australia is in no hurry to reopen its international borders.
And I can assure Australians that I will not be putting at risk the way we are living in this country, which is so different to the rest of the world today. The issues of borders and how they're managed will be done very, very carefully and must be done in partnership with the states and territories in terms of how the quarantine program works.
Americas have been all about protests today. Argentines took to the streets of Buenos Aires to protest new lockdown measures brought back this week as daily cases surged to record highs. The Canadian province of Ontario expanded and extended a stay-at-home order and gave police new powers to stop and question people. However, the Toronto police said they will continue to engage, educate, and enforce but will not be doing random stops of people or cars. Fed up over tighter restrictions, demonstrators hit the streets of Toronto saying unjust laws are meant to be broken.
Freedom of movement, freedom of speech, freedom of peaceful assembly affects all of us. So we invite everyone to come and join and fight for that.
As Brazil recorded about 68,000 cases, along with nearly 3,000 deaths overnight, France said it will order a strict 10-day quarantine for all travelers coming from South American countries from the 24th of April. The move is aimed at preventing the spread of a coronavirus variant first found in Brazil. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, more than 600,000 first and second doses of coronavirus vaccine were administered in the past 24 hours.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, authorities say classes from grades 1 to 8 will remain suspended till 16th of May amid a third wave of COVID-19. They said classes from grades 9 to 12 will resume on a stage-wise basis in affected areas starting from Monday. Pakistan has recorded 149 deaths from COVID-19 overnight, its highest toll since last June, whereas the countrywide death toll has reached 16,243. The Health Ministry said over 6,000 people tested positive for the virus in the past 24 hours. It said the caseload has crossed 756,000, out of which more than 659,000 have recovered. Meanwhile, authorities have decided to start vaccination of people over 50 years of age from April 21st. Also, Pakistan has reiterated its support for reconciliation in Afghanistan and progress in the peace process. In a phone call, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi discussed developments in the peace process with his Afghan counterpart Hanif Atmar. He said a peaceful and stable Afghanistan is in Pakistan's interest. Qureshi expressed hope that the Istanbul process will help in the pursuit of lasting peace in the war-torn country. Qureshi also invited Atmar to Islamabad to discuss a way forward after the upcoming Istanbul conference. The Afghan foreign minister appreciated Pakistan's continued support in making the Afghan peace process fruitful. Now, Pakistan's foreign minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says the Pakistanis residing in the UAE have been contributing to the development of the Gulf state. He made these remarks while visiting the World Expo in Dubai. Qureshi said the presence of Pakistani pavilion in the UAE's international exhibition is a sign of growing economic ties between the two countries. Earlier, Qureshi said Pakistan's economic diplomacy yielded positive results despite the pandemic. In a meeting with Pakistan's Business Council, he said Islamabad aims to promote trade relations with the UAE. The foreign minister is in Dubai as a part of his 3-day official visit to the UAE. Moving on now, Russia says it has arrested 2 people for an assassination attempt against Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. The Russian intelligence agency FSB says the individuals were planning for a military coup in Minsk on May 9th. The Federal Security Service said the 2 suspects came to Moscow to meet with opposition-minded Belarusian generals. The Russian agency says the 2 men have been handed over to Belarus. Moreover, Lukashenko has alleged foreign involvement in the plot, which he said is most likely backed by America's CIA or FBI. Lukashenko also released a decree to prevent any coup attempts in the future. The Russian Foreign Ministry has vowed tough retaliatory measures against the Czech Republic over the decision to expel 18 Russian diplomats. Diplomats have been given 48 hours to leave over the suspected involvement of Russia in a 2014 ammunition depot blast. 2 people were killed in the explosion. Russia has described the accusation as absurd. Britain and the United States have voiced their full support to the Czech Republic. Also in Russia, allies of jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny have announced the largest street protest on Wednesday. The announcement was made to draw the world's attention to Navalny's deteriorating health. The situation worsened after Navalny started refusing food late last month in protest against insufficient medical care. Earlier, his daughter called on the Russian authorities to allow a doctor to treat the Kremlin critic in prison. A group of doctors have warned that Navalny risks cardiac arrest any minute as his health deteriorates. Navalny is serving a 2.5-year sentence in jail over embezzlement charges. He was arrested in January after returning from Germany, where he had been recovering from a nerve agent poisoning. Moving on now to Syria, which is set to hold a presidential election next month. The country's parliament says prospective candidates for the election will be able to register from Monday. Syrians abroad will also be able to vote at embassies on the 20th of May. President Bashar al-Assad is not expected to face serious opposition despite continuing conflicts and a growing economic crisis. It is the second presidential election to take place during the civil war. Last month, Washington warned Assad it will not recognize the election result unless the voting is free and fair. Now, Myanmar's shadow government has called on Southeast Asian leaders to give it a seat at the table during crisis talks next week. Speaking to the media, an official from the National Unity Government urged ASEAN not to recognize the military junta. Junta leader Min Aung Hlaing is set to join a special ASEAN summit on Myanmar next week in Jakarta. But his invitation to the meeting has drawn scorn from activists who are protesting against the military government. Meanwhile, unrest continued across the country, with protesters rallying in Mandalay, Magway and other parts of the country. According to an advocacy group, security forces have killed 730 civilians since the February 1st coup. Meanwhile, in Bolivia, former President Evo Morales has rallied thousands of people despite his party's key losses in regional elections. Morales supporters turned out in Cucacamba to cheer on him. Nearly 3 million people voted on the 12th of April to decide the mayors and governors of some Bolivia's most important regions. Results showed opposition candidates as the big winners, giving the ruling Movement to Socialism party its worst showing since 2015. Despite the losses, the Socialist Party still holds significant sway, with majorities in 6 of Bolivia's 9 departments. More news coming up in this news bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the US has ordered its non-essential embassy workers in Chad to leave the country immediately. The order came amid rising insurgencies and activities of the Al-Qaeda-affiliated group Boko Haram. The U.S. State Department said armed groups in northern Chad have moved south and appear to be heading towards N'Djamena. In an advisory, it said the government of Chad may impose travel restrictions without notice. Yesterday, the United Kingdom also asked its citizens to leave Chad as soon as possible. Now, in the U.S. city of Indianapolis, Sikh community has staged a protest calling for gun reforms after their member were killed in a mass shooting. Half of the 8 workers shot dead at an Indianapolis FedEx facility on 15th of April belonged to the Sikh community. City mayor and other elected officials joined the hundreds of demonstrators. At a vigil, the community demanded action that would prevent such attacks from happening again. The New York-based Sikh coalition has urged a probe of possible racial or ethnic hatred as a motivating factor in the attack. Law enforcement officials say they have yet to determine what motivated the 19-year-old shooter at the FedEx warehouse. Venezuela's opposition leader Juan Guaido has led a protest demanding COVID-19 vaccines to be allowed in the country. This comes amid a stalled immunization campaign and rising coronavirus infections. Guaido said insisting on one type of vaccine over another will slow down inoculation process. Caracas has reportedly acquired 300,000 Sputnik V, while 500,000 Sinopharm vaccines. These have so far been administered to public officials, health workers, teachers and senior citizens. The government is also engaged in talks with Guaido to make the additional vaccine payments with funds frozen in the U.S. Venezuela has so far reported nearly 182,000 cases of coronavirus and more than 1,800 deaths. Now, the United States and China have agreed to cooperate with each other to tackle the climate crisis. This comes after a meeting between Chinese climate envoy Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart John Kerry in Shanghai. In a joint statement, the two countries said they are firmly committed to strengthening the implementation of the Paris Agreement. The statement read, "Climate crisis must be addressed with seriousness and urgency that it demands." The two countries pledged to continue discussing concrete actions to reduce emissions. Washington formally withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement in November 2020 under the Trump administration. Now, South Korea says it has lodged concerns with the U.S. over Japan's decision to release contaminated water from Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea. Korean Foreign Minister Chung Eui-yong raised concerns in a meeting with U.S. climate envoy John Kerry in Seoul. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry said Chung asked the U.S. to cooperate with Seoul on the matter. However, talking to reporters, Kerry said it is not appropriate for Washington to intervene. Kerry termed Japan's coordination with the International Atomic Agency key to ensuring safety.
The United States is confident that the government of Japan has had very full consultations with the IAEA, that the IAEA has set up a very rigorous process, and I know that Japan has weighed all the options and the effects, and they've been very transparent about the decision and the process.
Well, now China's Huawei and Chinese automaker Arc Fox have launched their first 5G-equipped smart electric car in Shanghai. This is the first car to get the full Huawei system, which includes a Harmony operating system, LiDAR and 5G. By bringing all the components together, the vehicle is made capable of Level 3 autonomous driving. The smart car will be available on the market for $59,657. Now, in the Netherlands, pandemic-related restrictions have compelled a luxury hotel in Amsterdam to offer a takeaway burger for $23. Amid the closure of dining rooms in the Netherlands, Dutch hotels and restaurants have been forced to offer takeaway meals. The Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Amsterdam, with the two Michelin star chefs and rooms starting at $700, initially balked at the idea of offering burgers for delivery. Then reality hit. Chefs decided the most luxurious hotel in the country decided to offer a takeaway burger for $23. The Waldorf signature burger comes with a 240-gram Holstein Friesian meat patty and is served with English Duke of Berkshire bacon on a French brioche bun and aged Dutch cheese with homemade relish.
Well, being the most luxurious hotel in the country, I was a bit skeptical. But I had a great team and they convinced me to do it. The only thing I said, if we're going to do it, it got to be something so special, it got to be spectacular, and we can do it. And they convinced me. We came up with the idea of the box. I loved it, and so I said, it's a surprise, it's luxury, it looks good, we can go with it.
Now, hundreds of burgers are being delivered every week, while the meal has also been awarded 4.8 stars out of 5 by Uber Eats reviewers. However, it still does not compensate for a prolonged ban on inside dining that could be extended by months.
I was a little bit against it because I'm not a big fan of sending food out what is warm, what is hot. And so I was a little bit nervous, like, is it going to be good? Is it going to be okay? So we did a lot of trial cookings. How many minutes it takes from here in the kitchen to the guest at home who is going to eat the burger. Because for me, the most important thing was that the burger needs to be the best burger what you can buy here in Amsterdam.
Dutch plans to ease some COVID-19 measures next week turned out to be too optimistic and have been pushed back until April 28th at the earliest. When the Waldorf Astoria does reopen, it will have a tasty dilemma whether the popular burger stays on its exclusive menu or not. Now, format of next week's Oscar Awards has been changed to make them feel like a movie. Producers of the show say coronavirus mask will play a major role in the new format. Producer Steven Soderbergh says the presenters will be playing themselves, or at least a version of themselves. It says the award winners this year would be given an opportunity to tell a story and say something personal. Strict testing and COVID-19 protocols would also be in place in the 93rd Academy Awards that will be aired on April 25th. Now, in business stories, most major stock markets in the Gulf have gained, with property and bank shares boosting the trend. Saudi Arabia's benchmark index gained over 0.5%, with banks adding momentum. Dubai's main share index has also risen over 0.5%, led by gains registered by Emaar Properties and Emaar Malls. The index in Abu Dhabi ascended close to 1% after over 7.5% surge in aquaculture firm International Holding. However, the Qatari index fell over 0.5%, with commercial banks shedding over 3%. Now, in football, Barcelona have thrashed Athletic Bilbao 4-0 in the Spanish Copa del Rey final to lift the trophy. More from the soccer world in this report.
In Spanish Copa del Rey final, Lionel Messi scored a brace to hand Barca the title for a record 31st time. The win also gives Ronald Koeman his first piece of silverware as Barca's coach. Elsewhere, Chelsea beat Manchester United 1-0 to book a place in the FA Cup final. Hakim Ziyech netted the winner for the Blues in the second half, ending City's hopes of winning a historic quadruple. The Blues will now clash with either Leicester City or Southampton in the final. In the English Premier League, Sheffield United slid to the bottom following a 1-0 defeat at the hands of Wolverhampton Wanderers. In another fixture, Newcastle United beat 10-man West Ham 3-2 to go 9 points clear of the relegation zone.
The snowboarding natural selection tour has officially wrapped up with the thrilling final stop in the U.S. state of Alaska.
Some of the world's top snowboarders gathered at Alaska's Milky White Tordillo Mountain for the third and final stop of the tour. The competitors faced a dramatic 670-meter run, with the drop having an average 40-degree pitch, including jumps. The performances were scored on the overall impression based on the difficulty level and the size of the features, as well as the variety and execution of tricks. Norway's Mikkel Bang emerged victorious in the men's event, while American Ben Ferguson came in second and Mark McMorris of Canada grabbed the third spot. Canada's Robin Van Gyn took the women's event, while New Zealand's Zoe Sadowski-Synot came as the runner-up.
Oh, yeah, Robin! Sick!
Now, Australia has named 15 athletes to represent the country in the Tokyo Olympics, scheduled to be held in July this year. Australia's Olympic chief, their mission Ian Chesterman, said that the athletes have been down a great road and are ready for Tokyo 2020. Selection of the athletes was done at the conclusion of the Australian Athletics Championship in Sydney. Discus athlete Danny Stevens said that she will head to her 4th Olympic Games and was grateful for the chance to be in Tokyo. Now, in the National Basketball Association, Boston Celtics pulled off a thrilling win over the Golden State Warriors, outfinishing the visitors for 119-114 victory. This comes as the 6th consecutive win for the Celtics.
Jason Tatum led for the Celtics with 44 points, followed by Kemba Walker, adding 26 for the host. Stephen Curry put on a stellar show and finished with 47 points, but failed to secure a win for the Warriors. Meanwhile, Washington Wizards extended their winning streak to 4 games by dominating the Detroit Pistons 121-100. Bradley Beal recorded 37 points, followed by Russell Westbrook's another triple-double. In another contest, Los Angeles Lakers pounded the Utah Jazz 127-115 points.
Now let's have a look at how the weather is doing from around the world. that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.